Good morning, everybody. Hope you've had a good weekend. I certainly have. And I woke up today thinking, you know what? I really want to build something today. So I think that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do a good old-fashioned build along on Convex. It's going to be a personal project that I want to build, and hopefully we can get it done in a few hours. So let's get started. Hi, Mike from the future here. So past Mike was maybe a little bit optimistic with how long he thought it was going to take. It ended up taking me eventually about 2 and a bit days. And I decided to stick it out anyway because I wanted to have a really good example of like an end-to-end, really complicated application built purely on Chef. I honestly didn't think I was going to be able to get this far with just purely on Chef. I thought I was going to have to eject out at some point, but I managed to see it all the way through and completed my goal at the end of it. So I know this is going to be a very long video for a lot of you, and probably many of you are going to click out, but if for others of you might want to check out the whole thing just to see the process and the errors and the problems that I go through and the ways that I go about solving those problems, might be interesting to some of you. I'm probably going to do another video at some point with conclusions from this and takeaways. So stay tuned for the channel for that one. Anyway, back to past Mike. Okay, so you might not know this about me, but I am actually living in Australia, even though my accent is English. I live in Australia, and I live in a small town called Busselton, which is about 2.5 hours south of Perth. Let me just quickly pop open a map, actually. Okay, so for those who don't know, this is Australia, on the other side of the world to America, which is probably where a lot of you are. But down here is the Western Australia, which is some of the most remote capital city in the world. And we're down here in Perth. This is the capital city of Perth. I actually don't live there. I used to live there, but I now live way down here in this little sleepy town here called Busselton, which is like a seaside town. But anyway, they have this page here called the What's On in Busselton, and it's like an events page. And I had the same problem in Perth, but there's all these events on, but I never know about them because I have to check this page frequently. There's no way for it to notify. There's no way for it to notify me of an event being on, which is a shame because that means I miss out on a whole bunch of these events. So what I want to do is see if we can solve this today with Convex. What I want to do is see if we can build a project where it's going to be able to scrape this page, and there's also a number of other pages, like there's this page, and then there's like this page that've got events on them. And what I want it to do is see whether we can scrape this, put it all together in one Convex database, and then have it email me when there's new things come in that I might be interested in. So if we just take a look at this diagram, this is what I'm thinking I kind of want the UI to roughly look like, you know. So we just have a page that anonymous users can see that's just got a list of these items in it, and you can click into it and you can see extra details, or there might be cards, so I might give like a short description on the front of each one of them. And then we can have a search bar and maybe some filter buttons and a big subscribe button that you can click that you would then have to sign up for. So you'd have to create a login for it. And then once you're subscribed, you can add some settings that allow you to then, you know, change the frequency that you get emailed and things like that. So that's the idea. Now, I guess I probably should list, you know, what are going to be like the challenges here. So some challenges are going to be like the scraping part. How are we going to do the scraping? You know, can we do this on Convex, or are we going to need some sort of third-party service to do this? The subscribe part, are we going to use AI for this? Or are we just going to do it based upon like embeddings or something? You know, like if I was thinking, like if we did it with AI, we could say there's a text box and you just literally just write in your own words, I'm interested in art events, or I'm interested in dance music events, or something like that. And when a new event is added, it runs it against that. We run an AI against your prompt and see whether it matches. It's just a classification, basically. The other way we could do it is, like we say, we just do an embedding type thing, which is like a search, or just literally just do a text comparison with it. I haven't quite decided yet what we're going to do there. And one thing on this scraping, I just thought about whether the websites are going to restrict us from scraping them. I'm not sure. I think it should be okay. Like if we use a third-party service, then are they going to get blocked by any of these other websites? We probably should test that. The way that I've thought about doing the scraping, so there's two different ways. I've used this thing called Gina in the past. It's a pretty cool product. It has this API that you can stick a URL into, and it will fetch it and pull it back down in whatever format you want it. You can pull it back down like it's HTML, markdown text. So for example, let me just give you an example. So we have this event here. If I just grab the URL from that event, stick it into Gina, and I'll show you what we get back. Here we go. So this is what we get back. We get back down a markdown file that contains all of the information that we need. It has it in here. So what we would have to do is take this output and run that through an LLM or some sort of process that is going to be able to just extract out the about of the event, which is going to be the most important thing. It's the description of the event that's going to be interesting, the most important thing for us. And we also kind of do obviously need like the date of the event and some other bits and pieces like that. So that's one way of doing it. The other way I thought is actually we could just use the OpenAI web search feature, which is now available. So we can give it a tool type web search preview, and we can just chuck a URL in there. Hopefully, I haven't tried this. Chuck a URL in there and say, please give me the about, the date, and the title. And hopefully it'll be able to just give it us back. So this is kind of what I was getting concerned though with like the scraping, whether these websites are going to block OpenAI's web search tool. I don't know. This is something we're going to have to find out through this process, I think. All right, enough waffling. Let's just get started and build this thing then. So I'm going to do this as I'm going to see how far we can get just using Chef, I think. So if you're not familiar, Chef is a text to app tool, vibe coding tool from Convex. And it is very good because it not only does the front end of the app for you, like they might expect from like Lovable or Bolt, but it also does the back end and auth. So it's very good in that respect. And it also does now support Claude 4 Sonnet, which is great because I want to use that. Okay, so let's think. What prompt are we going to use for this? 1 second. Okay, so I've put together a prompt now. So it says, I want you to build a website that's going to let me collect and show events. The events are going to be sourced by scraping a few known sites, but we aren't going to do that step just yet. Each event is going to have a title, description, a date the event is on, an image for the event, a URL that links to more information about the event. This will come from the scrape page. I want the root page of the site to show all the events in the gallery, and I want the search bar above that lets the user search for events. So I purposely haven't told it to do the scraping yet. I haven't told it to do the subscribe yet. I want to keep the number of things that it has to do fairly low and hopefully increase the chances that this is going to succeed. I'm actually going to try this enhance your prompt button. So this is new. I haven't tried this yet. Let's see what this is going to do. Oh, okay. Create a clean, responsive website that collect and display events with the following features. Event, title, okay. Root page, display all events in the settle, okay. Search, design. Yeah, sure. Let's give that a crack. See how it goes. Interesting. I was just watching it do what it's doing, and I noticed that it's created a mutation to see the events. I was wondering how we were going to be able to do this, how we're going to be able to demo what it looks like, and it's interestingly created this thing that's going to create some example events for us. That's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the schema, what it's got for. Okay, let's split out application tables, interestingly, and we have events, which have got title, description, event date, image URL, URL. I'm not sure why there's two URLs there. Stupid. URL that links to the more details. Oh, let's go back to the code quickly before it shows us. Search index, two search indexes, search on the title and on the description. Fantastic. So that means there should be a, where is it? There should be, so we've got the seed event. Oh, events, here we go. So it should be something that lets us search. Yeah, search, there we go. So it's going to do a search on both the title and description, combine them together, sort them, and turn the results. Okay, cool. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, so the first thing straight up is, well, it's called Event Hub, which is an interesting name. It's still going, but I don't want the auth to be the very first page. I want the very first page to just be, I don't want you to have to log in to see these. Oh, wow. But it did it. Cool. And it looks quite nice, actually. Wow. Cool. Let's see. Let's type in charity. Oh, C-H-A. Wow, it works. That's cool. Maybe what we need to do is to get it to debounce the characters on the search. But, I mean, it works. Let's have a look at the database. Make sure the values are in the database. Let's go to the tables. Have a look at events. Yeah, there we are. So let's see if we change. Oops, let's expand this out a little bit. Can we expand it? There we go. We change this to be this one, marathon for charity. Let's change it from charity, marathon for Mike. Okay. And we go back here and we type Mike. There we go. It's Mike. Mike. And just to show as well, I just want to show that even text searching is reactive in Convex. We put this back to charity. Charity, and we go back to the preview. No results because it's now no longer saying Mike. Fantastic. So this is a really great start. I'm happy with this. I think what we're going to do now is I'm going to ask it to see whether it can debounce the search bar. It's a minor thing, but I'm going to see whether it can do it. Please, can you add some debounce to the search? Okay, let's see whether it can fix this for us. Okay, so let's try it again. Charity. Hey, there we go. So it doesn't do it immediately. Can we press back? Cool. Okay. Maybe, please. So when we, because you notice when we type something in here, the whole bar disappears, which not such a great experience. We'll see whether it can fix that for us. Okay, let's try it again now then. So yeah, there we go. So if I type in charity, there we go. Cool. All right, perfect. I think we'll just take a little pause, go and get myself a lovely cup of tea, and while I think about what to do next. Okay, lovely cup of tea acquired. One thing that I was thinking about and noticed was that the application tables here, the events tables, has a created by, and that's not really what I want. I want it to be like a public list of events. So it doesn't really need like an event to be created by somebody because it's just going to get created by the system. So I think that's, and also when you, the very first page is that auth page instead of like a public list. So I'm just going to I'm going to see if we can prompt it into convincing it that we want like I want a public list of events, and so I don't need it's created by a specific user. Okay, so I said the events don't need a created by field as they're going to be created by the system as part of another process that we're going to tackle in a minute. So please remove that. Also, the first page the user sees should be the list of events. I don't want a user to have to create an account to see them. It should just be a publicly viewable page. So let's see what it does there. I'm interested to see how Chef is going to handle removing a field. Whether that's going to break the type check or not. Because the database is going to have events in it that are going to have a created by, but we've now just removed that from the schema that's going to be in there. So let's just see how it handles that. It's going to be interesting. Okay, so let's have a look. The database should, it's saying saving. Okay, it's blocking my way. It's the created by is gone. Interestingly, okay. And the code schema has removed the created by. Now let's sign out. What are we going to see if we refresh this page? Great, cool. So it did it. Did a great job. So let's say charity, still can search. Perfect. Excellent. Okay, so what's next then? Okay, so thus far, Chef has been able to handle everything we've thrown at it. But now the spicy part comes. and I don't know how it's going to deal with this. Now I want it to do the scraping, and it's going to require talking to a third-party service. We're going to need some sort of cron job on a schedule. It's going to be interesting. Let's see how it handles it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the web search tool that we talked about from OpenAI. So I'm going to tell it to maybe look at this page and say I want to use the OpenAI web search preview tool to do the scraping. Let's see how it does. All right, give me a second. I'm going to write this prompt. Okay, so there's a complication here that I hadn't realized at the start of this. It's going to be tricky. So if we think about it, we have this events page here like this, and it has like a list of events. But what we're going to need to do is we're going to be able to give it a URL, but we're going to need it to be able to go deeper, one level deeper into each of these events. So we're going to need it to click on the event and then pull in the information from the page. So we almost need like an agentic behavior. I'm not entirely sure how we're going to handle this. I might have to have a chat with OpenAI or something in a minute to work out how we're going to do this. But the first step is we're going to want to have a list of event sources. So this would be one source. Like this all events site would be another source. Eventbrite would be like another source. So we'd have like a base URL that is the source for the events. And then what it's going to do is we're going to get it to scrape that page, and it's going to give us a bunch of like sub things for it to go into scrape to get more information about that event. So that's what I've kind of done with the next prompt. So it says, okay, now I want you to tackle a system that's going to insert new events into the database. The way this is going to work is we're going to need another table called event sources. Each one of those sources is going to need starting URL, the date it was last scraped, the scheduled function ID of the next scrape, and its name. So I might be being a little bit too over descriptive here about how exactly I want to do it. I am using a lot of my knowledge of like how Convex works and as a programmer to try and as best as I can, hopefully get the best result. This is how I would tackle it, like if I was doing this. Now, whether this is 100% needed, maybe I could just say, this is what I want it to be the final result, and I would just let it go and work out how to do it itself. Maybe that would work, but I feel like if I just give it as much information about how I think it should be done, it's going to do a better job. I don't know yet. Carrying on with the prompt, don't do the actual scraping just yet. We will do that later. Again, I want to break this up into smaller chunks. I just want to do this part first and make sure that this is right before we move on. Right, and right now, what I'm thinking is I want to be able to easily administer this. So we need a way to be able to add these sources and check that it's doing the right thing. And I don't want to have to just look into the Convex database and the logs to kind of like work out what's going on here. I'm a kind of like a visual person. I want to be able to see what it's going to do before we finalize on it. So we will want a debug button that we will add to the top bar, maybe like up here or something, that lets us add a source. And this will take us to the add source page. And this page will give us a URL, maybe some other parameters, and will let us experiment with the source to see how our scraping result is going to return. So I'm going to want some sort of debug process that we're going to be able to see what the result of the scrape is going to be, because we're going to be adding sources from different places. So I want to be able to see how it's going to react, like how the result is going to be on these different things. So fingers crossed, let's see how this goes. Okay, so supposedly it is now done. Perfect. I've successfully the event source administration system added the table. Let's have a quick look in our schema here. So event source is the name, starting URL, date last scrape, schedule function is active. Okay. Scrape config. Okay. Interesting that it's added that. Okay. Admin interface on the top, navigation, add sources, add source button. Let's have a look. Well, it's not there. Also, I'm not sure what these saving things are here. Maybe this might be a bug in Chef here. Maybe I need to sign in. So clicking the sign in button doesn't work anymore. Okay, we need to fix that for sure. So, but what else did it do? navigation flow, add sources. Okay, well, we need to be able to get to it. So let's say, okay, so I said, okay, great. I don't see the admin button on the top bar. Do I need to be signed in? If so, that's good. I agree. This is how it should work. I noticed that the issue, clicking the sign in button doesn't let me sign in anymore. It doesn't take me to the auth page. It should. Okay, let's see whether it's able to fix that for us. Yeah, it agrees. The sign in button is broken. Doesn't properly show the login modal. Okay, all right, so hopefully it's going to fix it for us. More tea. Okay, so supposedly he's fixed it. Hey, it does. Great, cool. So click sign in anonymously. Awesome. And we have, oh, great. So it's even added a page that lists the event sources, and we can add a new source. Cool. Okay. All right. CSS selector. Well, I don't think we're going to do that. We're going to do it using AI. But this is cool, though. So event hub takes us there and sources back to events. Perfect. This is beautiful. This is coming together very nicely. Now is the tricky part when we want to do the AI. I'm actually going to have a chat with an AI first about this, maybe O3 or something, and see if I can reason out what the best way of doing this is, because I'm slightly nervous that we're doing well here. I don't want to mess it up at this stage by going down the wrong path here. So bear with me. I'm going to have a chat with an AI. Okay, so I had a little chat with AI about this, and there's a couple of ways we could go about it. So the problem, again, is that we are going to want to hit a page that provides like a list of events, and then we're going to want to be able to click into each of those events and to get more details on each event. I was hoping that we'll be able to do this all in one step. I'd just be able to give the AI and a single URL, and it would just be able to go in agentic form, go through each page for me and give me all the details back. And I think this would be possible, and no doubt there are services out there already for this. But I've run into a couple of issues. One, when I try and do this using the OpenAI playground, it sort of works, but it refuses to give me back the image for an event. So for example, on this Ruckus event, it's refusing to give me back the URL for this image on OpenAI. When I use Gina.ai, it gives me back the whole thing as Markdown, and I can see the image URLs in there, and so I could extract that out as a second pass, but I can't do this all using OpenAI, so that's kind of a shame. And with Gina.ai, I can't give it a prompt, so I can't ask it to, extract out this part, about the event. So we're gonna have to, okay, not sure what happened there. We're gonna have to do this, I think, as a two-step process where we pull the list of events from the list of events page, and then we, in a for loop, go through them and scrape that individually. And then each one of those we scrape using Gina to get it as Markdown, the HTML as Markdown, which we can then pass to the AI. We could just get Gina to scrape it as HTML, but I think Markdown is probably easier for the AI to understand, particularly like the smaller models. So I think that's what we're going to do. I've used Gina before. I'm familiar with it. So I think that's what we're going to do. And one other thing to think here is that when we have our debug page here, what we can do is we're going to split it down to two separate steps. So we're going to give it the URL, which is a source, and then it's going to go through, it's going to pull out. So the first step is to pull out from the source the list of events. And then we're going to need to compare into the database to see, do we already have this event? Have we already scraped this before? And if we do, we don't want to add it again, unless the user explicitly, i.e. me, the admin, explicitly chooses to rescrape it. Otherwise, it needs to go into the database, needs to have a status of, not scraped, or, the last scrape date needs to be like empty. And then we need to kick off a schedule function to rescrape it. And then, so that's going to be the second step. So then we're going to need like a system, a process that's going to go through, the list of sites, events that are yet to be scraped on like a sort of cron job or something, and scrape them out. And we're going to have to do this in a way that's not going to overload the system. We're not going to hit rate limits, because we got to be careful with that. So We're gonna like work cut out here. I think the first step though is to scrape the source of these events, and let's just get some debug information back from that and see where we go. So 1 second, I'm going to write out a prompt. Okay, so I've put the prompt in here. So it says, okay, that's looking good, nice work. Always got to compliment the AI if you want it to do a good job. Now the next step is we're going to tackle the scraping. What we are going to use is a combination of Gina.ai and OpenAI to do this. What I want you to do first though is write a Convex action that, given a URL, is going to use the Gina.ai reader API to pull back the list of events. Yeah, so this is what it looks like. We're going to expect back though, some markdown here. Where is it? We're going to expect down here. This is markdown, sorry. We expect markdown to come back like this. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take that and we're going to pass that to OpenAI. But we're not going to do that just yet. First thing we want to do is get back this this data as markdown. And note the source URL here is this. I'm just explaining, how to use the API. It probably knows already, but I thought I'd make it very clear. So please do just a step for now. Create the action that uses Gina, then log the result to the console and make it call the action when we hit the test URL button here. Add to the source page. So let's see what's going to happen now. Oh, and by the way, I should just mention, don't worry about this API token here. I'm not exposing a live API token. This is actually when you go to the Gina.ai website, it just gives you a generic one. So that's not my live API. So just thought I'd mention that. Let's see how it does. Ooh, so this has been running for a little bit here, but we're just starting to run into issues here on Chef. Seeing that this type check has failed here, it realized that the issue is that mutations can't call actions directly. So it's trying to fix it. And then there's other errors. I also noticed, I looked at some of the code, that it is using any's here for this test result that's trying to show. So we're really in vibe territory here where we're just going to have to assume that it knows what it's doing. But I think we're just starting to hit the limits of what this is going to be capable of before we eject out into cursor and take control a little bit more. But okay, so apparently it's done. So let's take a little up. I'm not sure what these savings are down here. Could restart the page, reload the page. Let's just try reload the page, see whether it fixes it. Okay, we're back. So the saving thing is gone. So that's good. Let's try this source then. So let's use this Busselton one here. Let's copy that URL. Let's go back. Go back to Chef. And let's type in bus events. Starting URL is this. Don't know the rest of this. Let's test the URL, see what this is going to do. So supposedly this is going to hit the Gina API and return, let's see, logs. Starting scrape for that. Okay. Is this going to work? Or are we going to pause here? Well, here we go. Okay, so supposedly oh, here we go. Fantastic. Oh. Okay, so this is just a preview, but it scraped 179,000 characters. Content complexity score. Okay. I don't know what that means. But it's logged it out anyway. So that's cool. Great. So, I mean, it worked. Cool. Okay. Wow. So it's managed to do that. But now what we want to do is take the output from that Gina markdown, pass it to OpenAI, and get it to extract out the list of events for us and the URLs and the other bits and pieces that we want for it. What we want from OpenAI to come back is like the list of events in the order that they're shown on this page. So the Golden Fleece 50th anniversary, Seniors Connect, Reconciliation Walk, free tasting with course cider. Oh, that sounds pretty good. But that's what we want to come back. So give me 1 second and I will see if I can cook up a prompt for Chef to do that bit for us. 1 second. Okay, so cooked up this prompt. Okay, that's great. Again, always compliment the AI. You never know when the singularity is going to occur and Terminator is going to take over the world. Anyway, now I want you to take the full Markdown output that Gina.ai gives us here and pass it to OpenAI API and use the GPT-4.1 model to extract out a list of events from the Markdown. At this stage, we might not be able to get all the information about the event, such as description. That will have to occur in the next step. But each event should have its title and URL that leads to another page that lists the extra information about the event. We won't do that subscraping just yet though. Again, I want to make it very bounded here. If we let the AI go off, let Chef go off and just keep cooking, it may very well get into a broken state. So I just want to just bound the amount of stuff that it needs to do. And the final part is I want you to log those and show scraping results when you test the URL. So I want to be able to see them here, preferably, before we, go ahead to the next step. So let's see how it does. I'll drink some more cup of tea. Lovely. Okay, so supposedly it is now finished. Enhanced scraping with OpenAI. Let's have a look. Scraping. Okay, so this is what we had before. It would hit Gina here, and then it would finish. This would be the end of it here. But now, we've got this prompt here. You are expert extracting event information from web content. Analyze the following Markdown and extract. Cool. And return the results as JSON array. Interesting. I'm not sure whether I'll do that because I think OpenAI, you can return the results as JSON anyway. So we're kind of telling it to return as text that we're then going to, here, try and extract out here. So we probably, as an improvement, I don't know whether this is going to work. Let's see whether this works. But an improvement to this probably could use the functionality built into OpenAI for doing this. But this is cool. It's picked out the model. It's gone for GPT-4.1 Nano, which is cool. User temperature. It's set the temperature. I wouldn't have thought to do that, but that makes sense. Lower temperature means that it's not going to kind of be as creative. It's going to lower its creative output. What else did it do? Event sources. Okay, so then it's just doing some, the test URL here. It's going to run the action. Okay. All right, let's give it a crack. Let's try it. So grab this events. Let's see what it's going to do. By the way, at no point have I put in the OpenAI's API key. So Chef by default gives us some small amount of tokens that we can use. So, oh wow, there we go. Wow, the Golden Fleece, there it is. Seniors Connect, Reconciliation Walk, and my favorite, the course. This is perfect. Awesome. This is so cool. All right. Wow. This is amazing. This is amazing. Okay. I can't believe this has worked so well so far. This is really impressive. Okay. So the question then now is, what is next? Do we do the sub extracting, the sub scraping, or do we move on and add these as events? 1 second, let me have a think about this. Okay, so I just wanted to give it a minor upgrade now. So I said, again, complement it. And then I said, one thing I noticed is that there's sometimes images associated with each event that could also be extracted out for the event at this stage. Could you ask OpenAI to also extract out the image URL and display that to as part of the test URL results? So here I want to be able to see the image that's associated with it, because I noticed that on this website, on this City of Busselton Geograph one, the image is here, but if you click into the event, it's not on here. They do have this other image down here, but the problem is, if we rely on the sub page for the image, then these events might not actually get an image, and we should be using whatever's listed here. So I think that's what I'm going to see if it's going to do. And it's going to be optional because there are other pages that might not have an image. There are other sites that might not, like, oh, this one does. So these do have an image there, but we might be better off taking like the larger image from like the sub scraped page for that. Okay, so let's just see how it does anyway. Okay, so supposedly it's now finished. We'll have a look in this quick sec. I just noticed though that there's another usage of any here, which makes me more nervous. Hashtag vibe coding. And then it's also got some types here, which might might or might not be necessary. But anyway, let's have a look. Let's run this again and see whether it's able to also extract out the image from these events here. Let me have a look at the logs. Oops, where's the logs here? Extracting events. Oh, here we go. So supposedly it's now done. Yay! Wow, look. Wow, it's done it. It's extracted them out. Fantastic. Great. Wow, okay. And clearly these websites don't have, Busselton's government website doesn't have cores enabled to protect me from pulling images, so we can show them here. That's awesome. Fantastic. All right, so great. The next step, I think, let me have a think and we'll cook up a prompt. Well, the next step is, this is going better than I expected. Okay, so the next step is I want to just do a little bit of tidying up. I was just quickly looking through the code and I saw in the schema here that we don't actually have a reference from event sources to events. So I want to make sure that there's a reference there. So I've asked it to do that. And I also noticed that we don't really need the CSS selector or max pages or delay or those sort of config values. So they're listed here in the schema as well. So I want to get those removed. I was tempted to do more inside this prompt, but I'm like, no. We'll keep it simple. We'll follow the 5 rules of chef prompting and we'll keep it simple. So let's just run that part for now. Okay, so it's finished. Supposedly it is removed those bits for us. Let's have a little look. Yep, removed, and the source ID, perfect. Great, and yep, the UI has been updated. Cool, before we continue with the next bit, I think we'll just double check and make sure that it's able to use this website, because we've not tried it on this one yet. So let's grab this URL, go into Chef, Margs, and we'll pop in that test and extract and see, make sure that it's able to extract the events on this page as well. I'm getting hot. It's cooking in here, too hot to cook in here. Okay, cool. So Gina's finished. And now it's doing the extraction of the events from the markdown. I think at some point we're going to run out of free tokens, but clearly that point is not today. And there we have it. Awesome. Oh, it hasn't pulled out all the images. I wonder, it's pulled out one, but not all of them. That's interesting. I wonder why that is. I wonder whether that is like a cause thing. I wonder. Oops, not this one. Where were we? Here. This was. So it's got this one. It's got the events out though, which is great, but it's only pulled out one of the images. Okay. All right. We're not going to stress about that one right now, because I think we can still get a lot of these images when we do the sub-page scraping. So I guess it's time to do that bit now then. 1 second. Okay, so before we do the actual sub-page scraping, what we need to do is we're going to need to do the create source part. So we have on our add source here, we will be doing this test and extract events part, but now we want to actually create the source and then immediately kick off, as soon as we created it, the first scrape run. So that's what I've told the prompt here to do. So now I want you to implement the create source button so that when we click it, it creates and immediately schedules the first scrape of the page. Now also I want you to do is handle the results that are scraped. For each event that is returned, I want you to look and see if we already have that event in the database and if we don't add it. Otherwise you add it again. So we want to make sure that we're not adding the same event to the database multiple times. But I was like, how can we do that? We can either pull the ID from the URL or something like that. So each of these events is going to have a URL, probably. It's going to have an ID in the URL. But I was like, that it could be problematic. So maybe let's just treat the whole URL as unique identifier for it. So this may be an issue if the website changes its structure of the way that it lists the pages. But I guess we'll just have to deal with that one that problem when we come to it. So to do the check to see if we have the event already, you should look at the URL for the event. That should have that should have a unique URL. So you should be able to index on that. So no results are returned from the query against it, then it doesn't exist. Again, I'm using some of my knowledge of Convex here to kind of just like prod it in the right direction. I think it would probably be okay. Convex, Claude Force on it is very good, so it should be okay. But it always helps to try to poke it in the right direction for what I want. So let's see what this comes up with now. Okay, so it is finished. So supposedly it's done the source creation with automatic scraping, create source, event deduplication. Okay, let's have a look. So let's go to the preview and let's have a look at our events so far. We've got all these test events in here, but let's add a source. Let's say margs, and let's add that URL from here. Copy that. Go back to Chef, smash it in here. Okay, so that's created the source. Oh, there it is. Okay. Status active, deactivate, delete. So is that doing the scrape right now? Oh, error. Must be authenticated to scrape URLs. Interesting. Must be authenticated to scrape URLs. So this is our first roadblock that we've encountered. I think this is a bug on Chef's part, actually. So event sources, scrape source. Let's have a look at the code here. Event sources, scrape source here. Okay, so I think what's happening here is we have this internal action here, which is a Convex internal action that is doing stuff, but nowhere in here is it doing the check for authentication. But what it is going to do is it's going to call one of these other mutations or queries here. And some of these do have this authentication requirement. So that's probably what's happening, is like Claude has not followed it through and realized that some of these sub queries and sub mutations are going to cause an issue. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this error and I'm going to give it to Claude and I'm going to tell it what I think is going on, and hopefully it's able to fix it. 1 second, please. Okay, so I just explained to Claude exactly what we just said, which is I noticed there's an error, and maybe it's the fact that the internal action is then causing queries and mutations that require the auth check. So I suggested perhaps we need internal versions of those that don't do the auth check. So let's see what it comes back with. Okay, so supposedly it's fixed that issue for us. So yeah, okay, let's have a quick look at the code. What has it done? So do we have internal versions of some of these queries? That one's still got that there. Update. Do we have internal versions of these? I don't know. Let's just try it out. So I think we'll have to delete. Let's copy this URL. Delete this event source. Are you sure you want to delete? Yeah. Okay. All right. And then we add a new source. Margs. Stick it in there. Create source. All right. So have we got an error? Oh, I think it's doing it. I think it's doing it. So it's extracting. It's doing the extraction phase. Please work. Oh, here we go. Oh, look at all those mutations. So this should have worked. Hey, look at that. There they are. They're missing the images, but they're there. No description available. That's fine. We can solve that. Cool. Okay. Awesome. Wow. Happy about that. Okay. All right. Well, it is about lunchtime, so I think I'm going to pause at this point and have a think about what I'm going to do next. But I am very happy with the way things are currently turning out. So I'll see you after lunch. Okay, lunch done. Let's carry on. I was excited to get back to this. Okay, so the next step, I think what I want to do is make it so that when we click on one of these events, it opens a new page that shows us the extra information about that. So I don't want like the full description to be on here. I just want like a short bit. And this learn more button doesn't need to be on here. That can just be on that sub page as well. So 1 second, I'm going to prompt this one out. Okay, so I prompted exactly what we just said. I said, please now add a subpage for a single event that can be viewed by clicking on one of the cards on the home page. that event page should show the information needed, including the full description, and should have a link to the source event. Then we should remove the Learn More button link from the cards, as we can get to that from the event page instead. All right, let's go. I'm feeling pretty confident about us being able to complete this whole thing now. Now that we've done a lot of the hard stuff, which is, the Gina.ai plus OpenAI scraping stuff, I'm feeling pretty confident. My only concern is like whether there's any sort of like context issues that we're going to hit at some point, and as this project grows, there's going to be too much complicated stuff for Claude to be able to handle, but we shall see. Okay, so supposedly it's finished. Let's take a look. So if we can click on one of the events, hey, we get the full event. About the event, full view original event, share event. I didn't even ask it to do that, but righto. Okay, so we click that. Hey, great, awesome, fantastic. Wow. Okay. All right. So I mean that worked well. I wasn't expecting that one to fail, but it worked. So that's great. Okay, so then what's next? I think the next bit is going to be doing the scraping of the individual event, so we can get, more information here. Hopefully it can pull the actual header image and all that kind of stuff. So to do that, let's have a look. Does the schema for an event? No. So it doesn't currently have any way to indicate like its scraping status. So we'll need to think about that. We'll need to have it represent that, and then we'll have some sort of like cadence that these things can be scraped at, like no more than once every, I don't know, couple of days or something. And then if the event's already gone by, like if the current date is newer than the date of the event, i.e. we don't need to scrape it again because that event's already gone by. Yeah, okay, give me a second and I'm gonna have a think and prompt this out. Okay, so I have done basically what we said, which is I said, okay, great. Now what we want to do is the part that allows us to scrape an individual event page. What I want to do is begin with have another debug button that's on the events page, like we did with the add source button, except this one should be view debug. So what I want is a button on here somewhere, which is like view the debug version of this event. And then when we click on that, you should open up the event debug page. So a special page that's just for this event that is it's going to allow us to debug it. This will be very much like we did before with the add source page, where we can check out the result of the test script for a given page. So let's kick this off. So what I want is it's going to have like another page that we're going to be able to do like a test scrape of this page and just see what we get back. Again, like I'm a very visual person, so I like to be able to see. I like to have these debug pages around so I can view them. Obviously, we'll have to, after we finish all this, lock this down. So the debugness is only viewable by an admin user, so a user with a specific email address or something like that. So let's just see how this goes, though. I'm not expecting an issue, so we'll see. Okay, so supposedly it's finished. So it has updated these pages and what is it? Edited this events. I don't know why it entered the events, but it did that. Let's have a look, see whether it works. View debug. No, it didn't do it. It says it. Oh, there we go. Okay, all right. So it fixed it. Cool. All right. So debug scraping, event scrape results. Back to the event. Awesome. So that does work now. All right. So now let's do the code that's going to run the test scrape. So 1 second while I prompt this out. Okay, so now I told it, okay, this awesome now works. Now let's implement the run test scrape button. Much like we did with adding the source and doing the source scrape, what we are going to want to do is add an action for scraping an event page. We will want to use Gina.ai to scrape the markdown as before, then run it through GPT-4.1 Nano as before to pull out the relevant information we need from the event page. I didn't tell it this time explicitly what information we want to pull out, so I'm hoping that it's going to be able to infer that for us. We shall see. Then show the results on the event debug page for me to inspect. So let's go. Let's see how this does. Okay, wow, so it's finished, and I was just looking at what it's done. So it says that it's done the bits we want, but then it's decided to take it upon itself. The event details, it's got a whole bunch of other stuff in here. Categories, tags, price, contact info. Okay, that's a lot of extra information. Did it change? No, so it hasn't changed the event table, which is good, which makes sense because this is only a test scrape right now. But I guess we just try it out. Let's just see. Run a scrape. And let's have a look at the logs. Is it actually going to do it? Oh, yep, it's doing it. So it started for this. Okay, so it's supposedly it's come back from the Gina, and now it's passed to OpenAI. So, oh, it's done it. Wow. Wow. And it didn't hallucinate that stuff? Just don't trust it. Let's have a look. Okay. Has it got where's it got the price from? Okay, so there's no price on here. So where has it pulled that price from? Do you think it's hallucinated it? Where has it got that from? I think that's something for us to look up. I'm slightly concerned that it's hallucinated that price, but let's have a look. The stuff that's important for me is going to be this description: Brie UI, cushions, snacks, and good vibes. Is that what it said? Oh, hang on as well. Like it's pulled. Yeah, so it pulls that from there. So this is the URL that we wanted to pull it from. Oh yeah, there is the $20. Okay, so that's where it pulled that from. So sorry, I clicked the contact info. That's sorry, stupid me. I clicked the contact info, not the URL that it's scraped from. So, and it's pulled the images. Wow, fantastic. Okay, so this is going so well, unbelievable. Okay, so now I guess the next thing to do is to add another button on here which says like, you know, not just run the test scrape, but actually do the actual scrape. So like run scrape now. So I'll need to tell it to, you know, update the database like immediately with a scrape that was resulted coming back. But I also want to add like a scrape status in there. So yeah, 1 second, I'm going to prompt this out. Okay, so what I've told it to do now is add another button that's next to this one that is start the scrape now. So the actual scrape, not the test scrape. And then we're going to get it to call, I've told it to kind of like what I want it to do, but maybe I could just let it do this itself. But I'm going to get it to call a debug action, which is then going to call an internal action to do the scrape, and then call a mutation to update the event in the database with the data returned. And it should record in the event table the data which the last time the event was scraped. So we're going to need that bit for the next bit after this, which is we're going to have a process that's going to periodically check to see which events need scraping and then do that for us on some sort of like cron job. But so that's what we need to record the date that the data was last fetched. So let's see how this goes. Okay, so supposedly it's finished. I noticed that it had a couple of type check fails this time, and it said it was going to fix the errors of proper type annotations. And yeah, well, I suppose adding an any is a type annotation, but it's not the type annotation that I would use. Anyway, who cares if it works, you know? So let's press the start scrape button and see whether this is going to work. Event scraped. So if we go back to the event. Hey, look at that. Wow. And it's got the full thing. And oh, this is beautiful. Lovely. I am really happy with that. Great. Awesome. So what's next now? I mean, I guess I could do the cron job to check these, to do the rest of them. Or we could do one of the more important parts, which is the subscribing to the event and then emailing me when a new event comes in. Let me have a think about this. Okay, so I think what the next step I want to do is to have it have another debug page on here. So sorry, very first start. What I wanted to do now is I wanted to scrape the rest of these, and I want to, obviously I don't want to have to go in and manually, do the manual scrape every single time. That was just for debug purposes. What I wanted to do is to have some sort of system that's going to go through and look for ones that need scraping and scrape them. And so to do that, we're going to need some sort of cron job, some sort of system that's going to have like a loop that's going to check every so often. I think it's probably the easiest way of doing this. And so because this is the way I like to work, I want to have a debug page that is going to show me that cron and is going to allow me to run it immediately. So I think that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to prompt Chef and we're going to get that debug page going. So 1 second, please. Okay, so I have come up with this prompt. I'm less sure about this one than I have been with most of the app, but let's see. Okay, so now we add a debug page for the whole app. Let's add that to the top bar and call it admin or something. let's just call it, admin. And the page it goes to could be app admin page. And then on the admin page, we're going to have some debug information about the processes the app is going to do. The first of those processes we're going to need is a process that goes through and runs a scraping job for any events that need scraping. We're going to want to record the state of these processes in a new table. Let's call it jobs. We could call it processes. I'm going to call it jobs. And the app admin page should list the jobs limit 50 and their associated status. So I'm not 100% sure whether I'm going in the right direction with this one, but let's just roll with it and just see what it comes up with. Okay, it's finished. It ran into some interesting issues, and I was just looking at some of the stuff that it's done. Got some things to say here. So it failed type check a few times, and it said I accidentally added a creation time into the index definition. Now, this is something that LLMs used to do with Convex code like a while back. They didn't realize that creation time is like built into Convex. Like every table gets an underscore ID and an underscore creation time, but they didn't know that. So they would often add these fields as extra and then try and index on them, but they don't need to because they're already added to every index in Convex anyway. So with that in mind, it's interesting that it did that. It's making me wonder that is it reaching the sort of like complexity level that's too much for Claude 4? And then I started looking at like what it's actually done. So like if we have a look at the schema for the jobs table here, it's added a whole heap of stuff in here that I didn't actually think I asked for. And also it's doing things like type setting as a string as opposed to a union of literals, which I would do. And the same with the status. And then if we look at the jobs table that it did, it's doing some interesting things, like it's provided a whole bunch of queries and stuff, but then it's like it started the actual implementation of the starting the event scraping jobs, which I didn't ask it to do. So I think it's tried to do a bit too much as part of this thing, and that's probably on me for not limiting the size, the scope. That's the biggest thing I'm taking away from this whole journey, is that limiting that size of the amount of chunks of your work to do at once, although tempting just to get to YOLO and do the whole thing in one go, I think in the long run it's going to be better for us. I mean, this is the first I've ever gone on Chef, in fact on any like vibe coding tool without having to escape out. So the fact that we've gotten this far, I think, is a result of us keeping those prompts really small and the chunks of work small. But anyway, moving on, let's have a look at the admin page here. Cool. Okay, so the recent jobs, monitor and manage background processes. Okay, scrape never scraped events, scrape old events, scrape all events. Okay, and it limits it to 5 max, clear completed jobs. Okay, I don't want to click this because it might cause me rate limit issues, and it's not exact. I wanted to control how we do this. So what I might do is ask it to I might just talk to it and just say, it's great that what it's done, but I kind of wanted to change the way that it does this. So 1 second, I'm gonna prompt this up. So I'll be back in. Okay. Okay, so the first thing I've done is I've told it to pare back a bit what it's done. So I said, okay, that's great. I do think that you may have gone too far with the jobs. Maybe you can take that back a bit just to just what's needed right now. Also, I didn't want you to do the actual job creation stuff just yet, particularly around kicking off the scraping jobs. Okay, so after that, you've taken all that out. Let's add the stuff in a bit of a more controlled way. The first thing I want you to do is write a query that's going to return all the events that are ready to be scraped. The thing that determines if it's ready to be scraped is 1, it must be in the past, and 2, it must not have been scraped within the past 48 hours. Please then show a list of events and a count that match those criteria on the admin page. So I'm going to kick that off. So again, this is like how I like to do it, is I like to have a nice visual way of telling me the most important bits of information about, so I can get like a sense of what the job is going to need to do. And also it's just like an easy way for me to come in and go, okay, right. So something's backed up, I've got like a million events on here that need scraping. There's obviously a bug somewhere or something's gone wrong, and I can get like a very quick visual inspection rather than having to jump into the Convex logs and dig through all that and work out what's going on. So that's what I've asked it to do. I've asked it to go back, basically get rid of some of that stuff that's added, and then we're going to start from the beginning and just firstly just make sure that I'm okay with the list of things, of jobs that it's going to, the list of events that it's going to do as part of a job. So let's see how it does. Okay, so it's finished. It said, now the system is simplified and focused. The admin page will show a count of the events ready for scraping, a list of all the events, the details showing, and the criteria for the events. Data's in the past. Event has already happened, hasn't been scraped in the past 24 hours, or never scraped. Good. I'm glad it picked up that never scraped part. So it's saying, it's listed them here, that there's 8 events ready. And we have this one, Young at Heart, and it hasn't listed, which is good, the one that we've done, the party wave. So let's say we get rid of, where's that Young at Heart one? There it is, this one here. So let's do a manual scrape on that one. So then if we do that, then it should no longer be shown up in the admin. So if it's doing that, so thanks to the way Convex works, this means that once that finishes, it should just automatically disappear from here because it will no longer match the query, the requirements of that query. Let's just double check. Let's have a look in our logs here. Hey, and it's removed it from there. Did I just see a toast? Is it AI added a toast for us? Okay, so then the Young at Heart one should be done, yeah? Yeah, there it is. Fantastic. So it's pulled that in, all the information we want there. And then in our admins, we only have 7. Perfect. So it works. Great. Cool. All right. One thing I did just notice just then was that in our data here, we have this jobs table here, which is a hangover from what it had before. I'm just going to delete that now so it doesn't cause issues a little bit later. But so I think that means that it's deleted the jobs table entirely. Yeah, it has. It's completely deleted the jobs table. We've still got the jobs TS file, but it's completely undone all of that. But that's okay. That's okay. We can do that because we're going to build this up little by little in a second. So, okay. So 1 second and I'm going to do the next prompt. So, okay. So we've now got a pretty big task for the AI to do. Hopefully it's not too big. It just looks like a big prompt here, but it's a series of pretty clear steps. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, this is going to be good. So, right, so what we've asked it to do now is I've told it there are going to be different kinds of jobs. And now I'm going to use some like insider Convex knowledge. This might be unfair if you're new to Convex, you might not know about this, but it's something that the way that I would code it. So I'm hoping that by doing this, it's going to have a better chance of working. So what I want is a table that's going to be a union of objects discriminated by a kind literal kind. So by that, I mean that if we have a look at the schema of a Convex table, we can have a defined table and it can just be like an object, and the object can have just different fields like string or number or whatever on it. But it could also be, a table doesn't have to just be an object. It can be a union of objects, which means just like in TypeScript, you can have a union of types that are discriminated by a literal string. We can do the same. We can basically define our Convex tables in the same way. I have a whole video on this, by the way, you can have a look on the channel, but that's just kind of what I'm telling it I want it to do. I want to be able to say that the jobs are going to be a union of discriminated objects. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have be able to create a job from the admin page and have a button which is going to be create batch event scrape job. I should have mentioned as well, there's only been one job type for now, which is the batch event scrape job. So that is, we're going to want to do a batch of like all these together in a batch and scrape them. Then the action should query use our query that we've got here to pull back the jobs, the events that we want to scrape. And then we want to sequentially go over it and just do our normal scraping internal action that we've already defined, that we're already using in our debug page for the event. So that stuff should be fine. Shouldn't need to do any of that kind of stuff. And then when the action is complete, it should update that job in the table with the status of saying, okay, I've done that. So that's just so we can have a nice little debug UI on here. And I've also said, because Convex actions can only run for a maximum of 10 minutes, we want to make sure that this action doesn't time out. So if it gets to 8 minutes, please complete the job. So because we could have like, hundreds and hundreds of events here, I want to make sure that that action is not going to time out beyond 10 minutes. And because we're going to be running this job like on a cron job, maybe we'll have another job that's kicking off this job. We're going to, redo it again in an hour or 24 hours or whatever we choose in a minute for that. And if that limit is reached or we had no more events left to scrape, then please complete the job. You should list the jobs in the status of the admin page. So I added that right at the end. Hopefully it knows that's quite important, that I want to be able to see these jobs, in action on this page. So let's see how this goes. It's a lot of different instructions, but hopefully none of them are overly complex. I'm slightly worried that there's some like type shenanigans and it's going to need to pull in information if it's dropped out its own context, but I might be overthinking this. Let's see. Okay, so it's finished. Awesome. Before we jump into that, I just noticed that our tokens, we're using a fair few tokens. We've got on this account that I'm using, which is the developer experience account for Convex, we've got 500,000 included, and we've used 307,000, which sounds like a lot, but it's not actually that much. So, and these are chef tokens. So chef tokens, $10 per 1 million tokens. So, we've used about $3 worth of tokens, I guess, if you think about it like that, just under $3 worth of tokens. And we've gotten really far so far. So I'm very happy with that expenditure right now, given that my time is probably worth a lot more coding this up than $3. Okay, so having said that though, let's have a look what it's done. So it's done that. Looks great. And by the way, I know that I had prompted it correctly when I saw it do this. It said, I'll add a job system to handle batch. Here's my plan. Create jobs table with discriminated using types, add job functions, create batch scraping action that processes it with the time limits, update admin page to the jobs. So I know that I've prompted well when it's got this 4 very clear steps that it knows how to execute. This could well be Claude 4 thing, but I am very, very impressed so far with how well this has done things. Okay, so let's try it out. Let's create this batch scrape job. Cool. Okay, so interestingly, it already knows the progress. So how does it do that? Currently processing this one. So let's have a look. So do we have events? And then we have events and jobs. Okay, so we've got that union type with the progress. Interesting. Okay. Oh, there we go. I think it did one. Yeah, it has. Fantastic. It's working. It's done 2. Oh, 1 failed. Hang on. What happened there? What did that fail? Error. Value does not match validator. Okay, so it looks like there's some information around categories that errored there. That's good to know. We'll have a look at that in a minute once this is finished. Oh, okay, so the rest of these are erroring now. Okay, around the same issue. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, extracted event data, type example domain. This domain is used for illustrative examples. Prior using permission. Are we reaching some sort of limit here? OpenAI. I think we're reaching some sort of limit with Gina here. 1 second, I'm going to dive into this. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure why it's causing that error. I think it may well be the fact that I'm using, an anonymous Gina.ai API key. So I've asked Chef to replace everywhere where we use that key with the one in process end. So I've signed up properly for Gina, and I've now got a proper API key. So I put it into into here, into this Gina API key in the environment variables in the Convex settings. So in theory now, this should go through and replace those. So 1 second, please. Okay, so in theory, it has now done that. So let's go back and see whether it can do another job here. So let's start that again. So the 6, which is correct. And let's see whether it runs into any issues there. Oh dear. Okay, so it immediately ran into an issue. Yeah, so it's still hitting issues with this. Okay, all right, 1 second. I'm going to need to investigate this a bit further. Okay, so that entire batch event scrape failed. So I've asked it, okay, so I'm getting this error in Convex logs when I kick off the batch scrape job, and I literally just pasted the error into there. And I said, can you investigate, please? I think we need to be really quite accommodating when scraping the data that may or may not be there after scraping. So let's see how that does now, shall we? Okay, so it says it's finished. It says that it's improved the data cleaning, better type safety, robust field validation, array handling. All sounds good, except I don't like this anywhere. I don't like the usage of any, but we'll let it fly for now. And we also are reaching dangerously close to our limits, so let's hope that we can get this done soon. God knows how long this video is going to be as well. But okay, so let's start off another batch job and see how we do. Oh, 2 failed. Hang on, why did 2 fail now? Okay, what's the next problem? Authentication error. Okay. Give me a second. I'm going to look into this one. This may well be another running out of tokens thing. 1 second. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Just looking at the logs, it says failed to scrape event page. Convex OpenAI token has no requests remaining. Go sign up for an OpenAI key. So 1 second, I'm going to put my OpenAI key in here and hopefully we can continue. Okay, so I've told it that I want to replace the Convex OpenAI API key with my own OpenAI API key. So hopefully it's able to go through and replace those places in the app now. 1 second. Okay, so supposedly it's changed the API key now, but I noticed it also changed the model from GPT-4.1 Nano to GPT-4o Mini, which is the older model if you're not familiar. I'm not sure why I did that, so I tried to ask it to change it back, but it's now kind of like frozen. This maybe, and also a number of tokens have gone up to 90%. So the model hit an error. Please try sending a message again. Something might be going badly here. But let's try creating the batch script and see how it does. Okay, so we've got 2 left now, and so hopefully these 2 should go through no problem. 2 gone through successfully. Woohoo! Okay, so I don't know why these guys aren't coming through, but the rest of them should have come through fine. Where are the rest of the events actually? So why are these ones not being flagged as needing... Did I get the logic wrong? Does it need to be, it has to be in the future? Did I say that? 1 second. I think I may have confused it by saying I wanted the event needs to be in the past when I meant it needs to be in the future. 1 second, please. Yes, that was exactly the problem. I had it in here where it was, if it is in the past, then it's ready for scraping when it should be the opposite of that. So, silly Mike. Okay, all right. So now we go back to the admin and there should be some more. Yeah, there's 14 events now already. So that makes more sense. Okay, all right, great. Okay, this is still not, I might try refreshing all of Chef and see whether... Okay, so I've told it to update. So by the way, Chef is working again now. I don't know why it was failing there, but I've now told it that I want to change it so that it should only be scraping events that are in the past. There are a couple of areas where it does that. So I did manually, because you can actually manually change the code in Chef yourself, but I thought it might be better if I just get it to do it rather than me do it, because there are a couple of places where it does it. I've noticed like duplicated logic here, like get events ready for scraping and then get events ready for scraping internal here. So there's like duplicated code there, which is about as disgusting as using the any type, to be honest. So hopefully it's able to rectify that in the correct place. And okay, so it's finished. So it's made it to make more sense. And we've got the 14 events here, which is great. And when we start the batch script, it should, yeah, great, say 14 events. So that was the problem before. Even though it said there was 14 down here, when I started a batch, it had 0 events. I was like, that confused me, because like I said, the AI had made duplicated code, so it wasn't using the same function. And then there were other places as well, like so there were some bits on the UI. It was using the label. It was explicitly saying it was in the past when it should be in the future. I have also now updated my OpenAI key. It wasn't working for some reason, so I had to replace when I use my own environment variable. So I just replaced this Convex OpenAI environment variable with my own, and that seems to have worked. And it has finished the batch, so it did 14. Oh, I have to log in again. Okay, sign in. Okay. And so it completed this batch of 14 events without issue. So that's really great. So I think we are done with this this particular batch scraping of jobs for now. That's a nice thing. What I want to do now is maybe have a cron job that's going to kick off every, let's say, hour, and is going to check to see whether it's going to start the job. And then so the job is going to check to see whether there's any events, and if not, it stops. So maybe once an hour. Is that too much? Maybe a bit less. Maybe every 6 hours or something like that. But yeah, let's just do that now. So 1 second. Okay, so I've asked it to kick off a cron job every 10 hours for one of these batch scraping jobs for us. I chose 10 hours because I think I'm going to want to do the source-based, if you remember the sources, do the source-based scraping every day, so every 24 hours. And I don't want them to perfectly overlap. So, because I want it like a source to do a source thing, and then that's going to create some more events. And then I want the cron job for the batch, for the events to happen like on a different schedule. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, it's going to end up overlapping. So hopefully this will be pretty easy for the AI to do. Crons in Convex are pretty easy. It's going to involve creating a crons file in the root of the Convex directory with just a few parameters. In fact, here it is now. Oh, it's creating the internal action in there for us as well. Interesting. Okay, yeah, there we go. All right, cool. So every 10 hours, automatic batch scripting. Okay, so yeah, that's it. It's finished the cron. So in theory, it should be running. Let's have a look. Go into Convex and let's go into schedules, cron jobs. Yeah, there we go. So every 10 hours, it's going to run it. So cool. All right. Is one running right now? Did it kick one off? No, it didn't. So it'll start in the next, within 10 hours time. Okay, great. So let me have a think. What is next on our plate here? 1 second, I'll have a think. Okay, so I've decided now that I want to just complete the loop on the events and the scraping of sources. So I've said, okay, great, you're doing really well, thanks. Always good to compliment AI. Now I want to create another job kind. This one is going to kick off a scrape of the event sources. And then I said, I'm not sure if you remember us doing that earlier, but we should have an action or internal action that covers that. So just like the batch event scraping, we will want a job that goes through all the sources and runs the scrape action on each of those and reports their progress back into the job. So over here we only have one event source right now, but we have multiple or several in there. I'm going to want it to go through all of those, each one of those in turn, and do them, and then update the job just like this one does and report back to us. So let's see if it's able to do this for us. Fingers crossed. Okay, so it's finished. It's finished creating the new job type. So let's have a look in our schema. Great. So it's continued on our union of objects with literals, which is what we want. Although there is a lot of duplication stuff in here. So I think, again, for maintainability, I wouldn't do it exactly like this. And then if we look in our jobs, this file is getting pretty big. We have, yeah, I think we've got a fair bit of like duplication going on in here again. Seeing as we're doing kind of similar things with these jobs, but that's okay, not a problem. It's just going to cost lots of tokens when it updates. But let's see whether this works. Oh, we've got that saving bug down here as well again, but that's okay. Let's click scrape sources. Okay, so we've got one. currently processing marks. Okay, so I think it's done it. Yeah, it has. Fantastic. Oh, and it listed the number of events that it found, 22 events. Awesome. So let's go back to the events. Is there any new ones in here? Oh, Busselton. So a new one just came up. Busselton foreshore markets. There we go. Awesome. Really happy with that. Fantastic. Okay, well, maybe what we could do is we could even add the rest of the sources in here. Am I pushing my luck here with this by adding all the other sources? Okay, so I've decided I'm not going to add the other sources just yet. I want to keep the number of events in here under control so I don't overwhelm the API and use too many of my tokens. But I have noticed a couple of issues. So one is that some of these events have got invalid date on them, and I wasn't quite sure why. But for example, like if I look at this Harbar one, if we click on view details and then we go to the original event, we'll see that it's actually got multiple dates in there, which is an issue. So I think what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to need to tell it that if it scrapes and there's multiple dates, just pick like whatever's the soonest one. And if it can't find a date, we should just pick like a default date. So there should always be a date, there should never be like an invalid date. So the date should just be by default like tomorrow. So I think we're going to fix that one. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these sources and add source and move them into underneath the admin page. So there's just all the admin stuff is underneath a single place. And then also I want to get rid of this add event button that's going to manually add an event. I don't need to do that anymore. So because all the events are going to come from the sources. So those three things I'm going to do now. Be right back. Okay, I hope I'm not giving the AI too much here, but I've asked it to fix the three smallest things. The first thing is to remove the add event button from the home page. And then I've explained a little bit why. And then the second thing I wanted to do is to move the sources and the add source into the admin page and to get rid of the add source button. We don't need that anymore. And the final thing is to fix that invalid date. This one I think it could well struggle on because it's going to need to just be a bit more intelligent about how it selects the date. And I also noticed that the schema, the event date is set as a string, which is going to be an issue because if we're going to want to show these events by the date that the event is, that's a problem because we're not going to be able to sort by a string. So we're going to need to be able to sort by a timestamp, which is a problem, which we probably should have caught before. But so I'm now asking it to pick a single date. And if there are multiple dates, just pick whichever one is the soonest. And if there is no date, then pick today as the date. I don't know whether this is going to work. Hopefully it does. Fingers crossed. Okay, I think it may have frozen, which is an issue. So it's done a bunch of updates, but then on this event card, it's been stuck on here for some time now, which has me concerned. I think maybe this was too much to do in one prompt, or something else is going on. Either way, it stopped. I think it might be time that I bounce out of Chef and into Cursor. I will just have a think about this one and also see whether it recovers. Okay, I'm back. I am fresh-faced. I've had a shower and a shave, and it is day 2. And I've had some thoughts overnight while I was thinking about this project. So I said at the end of the last one, which probably you guys just watched like 5 seconds ago, that it might be time to bounce out of Chef. And I think I'm going to change my mind on that one. I think it's going to be important to see whether I can do this entire thing in Chef rather than ejecting out. I will do a video on like ejecting from Chef at some point, but for this one, I want to see whether we can do the entire thing in Chef. I think it's going to be important to do this is what I would consider like a fairly complex project, all within a vibe coding tool where, I don't really code a single line at all, and whether it's able to just do all of it. So that's what we're going to do here. So if we hop back into the project, where we were left it last time was it was getting stuck on the last prompt. And I asked to do 3 things: remove manual event creation, move sources and add source button to the admin page, change event date and timestamp to improve date parsing. And I think that was too much for it. Also, maybe there was a bug with either Chef or Claude, it didn't finish. It just hung there the whole time. But it did some of it. And you can see that the UI has changed here. It's added like the search bar up here, and it's got rid of like the title here, and it's added this admin button here. It changed more stuff than I asked it to do. And so I'm not very happy with that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to revert back to where we were, and I'm going to just break this chunk up. So I'm going to just save that. I'm going to rewind back to here. And we're going to have another attempt at this, but I'm not going to give it all three at once because I think that was too much. Instead, what we'll do is we'll just maybe give it the first two and the third one afterwards. So 1 minute while this... Okay, we're back. So it has restored to how it was before we did that prompt. So let me just paste that prompt back in here now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this bit. So let me see whether it's able to handle just these two. So please remove the red event button from the add event button from the homepage, this here. And then I also just want to tidy up these two buttons and move them into the admin. So let's see whether it does that. And we'll see if it does, then we can do that third bit afterwards. Okay, we're back. So it has finished the changes and it didn't error, which is nice this time. But it has changed more than I wanted it to. So it's changed the name of the app. It's added the admin button and got rid of those two buttons that were here, but it's also added this welcome user, which I didn't want. And it's also removed the subheading. It's also changed the cards here, which is not what I wanted either. So yeah, it's done a bit more than what I wanted. The admin, so we have the managed sources here, which is good. And we still, okay, we can no longer add a source. Okay. All right, let me see if I can get it to fix that. And also, I think I'm going to tell it just to back off on changing. You changed too much stuff. So 1 second, I'm going to prompt it to see whether we can just revert some of those bits that it did. 1 second. Okay, so I said, hey, thanks for that. You're doing a great job. Now I noticed that you changed quite a few of the things than what we were just looking for. You changed the app name on the top header bar. Please undo that. I noticed that you added the welcome user message at the top bar. Please remove that. I noticed that you removed the subheading from the home page. I gave a little description about what was going on. Please add that back in. And I also noticed that the add source button no longer takes to the add source page from the sources debug page. So hopefully that's not too much stuff for it to clean up. But I do wonder whether this is a fact of maybe we're asking, it's starting to get too much context and it's doing too much. Or it could be the fact that there's just too much code in some of these files. Some of these files are getting too big. So maybe the next prompt we need to do is to do maybe some refactoring, get it to make some of these giant files a bit smaller. Like this app TSX is, well, it's not that big, 130 lines. Maybe it needs to be smaller. Maybe some of the other ones need to be smaller. But let's just see how this does anyway. Okay, so it's finished. I forgot to tell it to change the app title back, but whatever, I'm not bothered about that. We're going to give it a proper name at the end of this anyway, so I don't really care that it does that. It's added the subtitle back in, and it's fixed the header up for us. Manage sources. Yeah, okay, so it's fixed that up. Great. So, cool. All right, so, and everything else here still works. Yeah, looks good. Okay, so then, I don't think I am going to do that tidying up prompt just yet. Trying to make some of these files smaller. I think what instead we're going to do is we're going to finish off that other bit, the third part of the prompt that errored before. So paste it back in here. And some events are showing invalid date. So this is this is the one that maybe threw it off. This is going to be a tricky one. So this is some of these are invalid date. It's because when the event is scraped, the page is showing multiple possible dates. I think what I want us to have is a single timestamp for an event. It can't have a range. This is going to mean changing the event date to be a number, which is the timestamp for that. To do that, I think you need to change the system prompt scraping for an event such that there are multiple dates. It should pick the soonish date. I think there are no dates. It should pick the dates. So I think the issue is going to be here. I don't know whether I should do this now. I know from my past experience with Convex that changing the schema of something that's already got data in the table. So the fact that this event date is a string here, we're going to change it to be a number. It's going to be a timestamp. a single number so that we can search, we can sort on it and filter on it and stuff like that. But to do that, it's going to have to modify the existing data. And the way that we do this normally in a production app is you would have a migration and you would make a change that made the schema value for the event date a union of string or number. So then all data within the table still matches that type. So it's string or number because it's a string. And then what you do is you run a migration pass where it would loop through all the values in the table and it would change them over from being a string to being a number. And then you would do another schema change, which would get rid of that string option. So it would just be event date is number. So then you complete the migration there. Now, I don't think Chef is capable of doing migrations. So by asking it to change this now, I think it's going to cause issues. So maybe what I can do is part of the prompt is tell it to pause. If it needs me to delete the data from the database, I can do that. Maybe I'll do that. 1 second. Okay, so what I said is, if you need to change the schema for the event date field from a string to a number, you're probably going to run into the issue that there is existing data in the Convex database with the event date as string. If this is the case, then you can stop and ask me to delete the data in the events table if you're unable to do that yourself. So I don't know whether Chef has got the ability to alter the data in the database. Let's find out. You can do this through the MCP server. So I have videos that you can find on the channel about that. We have an MCP server for Convex, but I don't think that Chef has got the ability to alter the data in the database, which is a shame. It would be really nice if it could do that, if it could just go straight into the database and delete the bits out that it needs to. But I can see that there may also be kind of worries around allowing the AI to mutate your data like that. But let's see how this does. Okay, so it stopped so it says, I'll help you fix the invalidate issue. So it's done the change. It's changed the schema, we can see here. But then it said, now I need to deploy these changes to see if there's any schema conflicts with existing data, and then stopped, which I'm a bit confused about. You know what? I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete it for it so that it doesn't run into these issues. I'm just going to go in here and delete all. Yeah. Okay. So now we've deleted them, and I'm going to tell it, I have deleted those events for you. You should be okay to continue. And let's see whether it knows what to do now. Okay, so it's finished. After I told it to continue, it tried to do a type check and push to Convex, but it didn't. And I went through a few rounds, iterations of doing that until it finally managed to fix it. So, I mean, it's got a lot of any's in there still, so who knows? And because I've deleted the events, we're still getting that bug here where it's doing the saving. Because we deleted those events, what we're going to need to do is go into admin, manage sources, and scrape. Get this to scrape again, and add, oh dear, we have run into an error. Okay, let's have a look. 1 second while I try and debug this. Okay, so that took a bit of time. I think I now have found out the reason for that error that we're getting there. It is, if we go to where it does the actual scraping, the scraping TS file, we were using Gina before, and it's now changed it to be a fetch function instead. So it's now trying to do the scraping itself. And I reverted back one change just to see whether it was that, and it wasn't that. So I suspect it was this one, this latest one where we tried to do the invalid date. I think it was this error that's caused it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to revert back this one as well and see whether that was the case. And if that was the case, we'll see what we do after that. Maybe we'll give it one more try. Otherwise, it may well be forced to bounce out of Chef at this point, because it is frustrating having it changing stuff that it shouldn't be changing. And this is not Chef's fault. I think this is just a common issue with LLMs at this point. When they get to a certain size of project, they want to go off and do their own thing. And I think without having Git there, I'm unable to like selectively say, okay, I just want these edits and not these edits. But let's just see what happens when I revert this. Let's be back in 1 second. Okay, so I've rewound that, and it looks like the code is back to how it was before with the Gina, which is great. That's what we want. But unfortunately, that means that our event date field is incorrect here. So I might give it one more try. I copied that prompt that we had before. I'm going to put that back in again, and I might modify it just a little bit just to reinforce, like, you know, don't change stuff that you shouldn't be changing. All we want to do is change the event date. And because the rewind only rewound the code and not the data, the events table is still empty. So I don't need to tell it about, you know, pause and let me delete that. So back in a second once I've written that prompt. Okay, so I had a good think about this one. I was tempted just to abandon this and just like whatever, leave it and not be able to filter and sort. But I really want that ability to be able to filter, like organize these by date. So to do that, we are going to have a single date for these events. So I said some events are showing as invalid date. That is because when the event is scraped from the page, it's showing multiple possible dates. I think what I want us to have is a single timestamp for event. It can't have a range. I do, however, still want to capture the date range, as some events can potentially span multiple days. So I do kind of want to still capture that information somewhere. So I think what we're going to want to do is change the event date to be a single date as a timestamp number, and add a new field to scraped data. So this data here that will contain the string for the event date, the full one scraped. So now we must decide which single value to put in event date if the scrape returns multiple. I think we should choose whatever the closest event date to the current one is. Whatever is the closest one to the current one. And if there isn't one or couldn't be decided, then let's just pick today as the date. So this is the last chance I'm going to give it to do this. If it doesn't work or it changes too much stuff, in fact, I didn't tell it to restrict how much it changes. But if it doesn't change too much, so if it does change too much stuff, then I am tempted to jump out, or I might skip this issue for now. Be right back. Interesting. Okay, so it's finished, but I was just reading it, and it didn't. So the first thing it did is it updated the schema and changed bits and pieces. It ran a type check, failed, and updated just the seeding function. If you remember right back to the start, we have this this mutation here that seeds the database with some example events, which we don't actually need now, so you could probably get rid of those. But then it pushed immediately and succeeded. But for some reason, it still told me that that we need to delete all the data in the table, and it gave us instructions for how to do that, which is cool. So it like basically told us like the migration steps that we already did, because I knew, you know, it was going to run into that issue. But in theory then, so now it should just work. So if we go to manage sources and scrape now, great, we didn't get an error. That's definitely a bonus. Let's have a look at the logs. Is it working? Hey, here they come. There we go. 19 events have come in. Fantastic. And it just pulled one with an image for some reason. I'm not sure what this little... Oh, okay, cool. It's added a little... when it did the changes to the cards, it added a little debug thing to it. So just make sure that we can scrape one of these in detail. Make sure this works. Let's see. Huzzah! Yes, it has. Haroki competition, Harbar. I don't know where that is, but... sounds good. And we have a date. So let's have a look. Make sure that these dates are what we expect. So no event description for these. That's okay. So it's got these dates here. 5/26. Should we pick one of these events? Let's go to this Haroki competition. Original event date information. Okay, so let's have a look at the original event page. So Thursday, May until 15th of May, next occurrence, Thursday, 29th of May. So is that right? Should it pick the 29th of May then as the event? Did it do that? It did! Huzzah! Okay, great. So we finally got there. My faith in Chef has been restored and AI in general. I welcome our AI overlords as always. Okay, what's next? Well, seeing as we've added those dates in there, maybe we'll add a couple of like filter fields to this page now that allow us to filter by, I don't know, maybe just show, I don't know, don't show past events, show events, don't show events in the future, a few different filters like that. Give me 1 second now, I'm going to come up with a prompt that's going to do that for us. Okay, so I've said, okay, great, everything is now working. What I want to do now is take advantage of that single date field by adding some filters to the list of events on the homepage here. For now, let's just add one filter that allows the user to choose how far in the future they would want to show events, 1 week, 10 days, or whatever. This should work in tandem with the search bar, so you can optionally choose a filter and search at the same time. Let's give it a shot. I did think about adding other filters like don't show past events and stuff like that, but by just having that one filter, like show me how far in the future, it should exclude past events. So there may be other ones in the future, but I just want to just see how it does this. It's going to need to probably add some indices to do this in a performant way. So on our schema, we do have an index by event date, but we're going to need to do also, we'll do the searching and event date stuff. So I'm not entirely sure how it's going to do that. Let's find out. Okay, we're back. So it is supposedly added the filter and it looks like it has. So show all upcoming events, so 16 events, next 7 days, 15 events, showing 15 events the next 7 days. Okay. Next 3 months, 15, all coming. So 16 events, 7 in the next days. So I guess there's one event in the past. Oh, hang on, what was that? 30 days? 14 events in the next 30 days. It's the 27th today. So yeah, it has hidden some. So there's one in the past, is that right? December 2025, so that's end of the year. I think I did see one that was in the past, but it may now have gone. Yeah, May the 30th. No, that's in the future still. There was one in the past, but it's gone now. Anyway, it works, and it's showing, this looks like it's ordering them by the date that they're coming up, which is great. I didn't ask it to do that, but that's perfect. That's what I want. I'm not a massive fan of the layout that it's gotten here, but that's okay. It'll do for now. I am happy with the way that things are going here. And I think I'm going to take a lunch break now, but I'm going to come back and we're going to tackle, I think, the next really big one, which is I want to be able to subscribe. The whole point of doing this is I want to be able to subscribe to this process so that I can get notified when there's a new event that comes up that matches what I am interested in. So stay tuned. I'm going to have lunch. Let's do that afterwards. Okay, I'm back. Right, so now what I want to do is implement that subscribe feature so I can subscribe to events. And I was thinking about it. I was thinking, okay, I could immediately just tell the AI to do it, but there's a few issues along the way. So one, to be able to do it, I want to be able to allow the users who are subscribing to stuff to be able to see their subscriptions and to cancel them and things like that. So that means we need to have a way that the users can log in. Now, right now, when you log in, you're an admin. Basically, if you're logged in, then you're an admin, which is not optimal. I mean, realistically, I'm probably going to be the only person that ever uses this, so it doesn't matter. But I don't necessarily want to give everybody the admin controls. So I think the first step that we need to do is tell Chef to change it so that whether you're an admin is going to be determined by a flag on a user. So I think that's what we're going to do. I'm going to prompt that out and I'll be back in a second. Oh, I just remembered we actually didn't test the search plus the filtering. So showing 16 events and in 7 days shows 11 events, but then I set that to Shanty. Oh, cool. So it does work. Okay. All right, good. Anyway, back to the prompt. Okay, so I've said, okay, now I'd like you to add a new field to the users, which is admin. This is an optional optional Boolean. Then I want you to change it so that we only show the admin UI buttons, pages, and things if the current user is an admin user. And I don't know how it's going to do this, whether it has the knowledge. So Chef projects by default have got Convex Auth baked into them. And Convex Auth, the way that it works is you have the schema. Let me just quickly show you the code. The schema, and you have these auth tables that get added, and they come straight from the Convex Auth package. But you can override the user table that it provides by literally just using the same fields that the auth library expects. And then you can obviously add your own in there. So I don't know whether it is aware of this. Let's find out. Okay, so it has finished. It's supposedly done it. I saw it update the schema, which it did do. Oh, and fantastic. It has intelligently identified the correct fields, and it's gone through. I'm very nervous now about what has changed after what we've experienced so far. Oh, fantastic. Look at this. Require admin. So it's created a helper function. It's intelligently done that, which does exactly what you'd expect. It grabs the user and then checks to see whether they're admin or not. And then it's just sprinkled that in various places. That's perfect. So it's protected the backend Convex functions for us. And on the front end, it has created this users is current user admin, which I assume is going to do what we expect. Where is our users here? Is current user admin. Where is it? Okay, here. There we go. Yeah, perfect. So that does exactly what we'd expect it to do. And then it should just hide the pages, which it does do. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to trust that this is probably good. And I think it updated the other ones because we had some like debug stuff on there. So great. So although hang on, we shouldn't get that admin button up there. Oh, which we don't. You just needed a refresh. Okay, great. So no admin button up there because we're not an admin. If I sign out, we should still see. I think that was a regression from before. Let me just quickly test that admin thing. So sign in anonymously. So we're anonymous. Let's go to the users. And the last user, it's doing that saving thing again. The last user to be logged in is this guy here, is admin. True. Okay, and we get it. Fantastic. Okay, so that works. Now I just want to quickly fix that. If you're anonymous thing or you're not signed in, I want to still be able to publicly view those events. So 1 second. Okay, so I've said that's great and works perfectly. I did notice, however, that there was a regression at some point. If I sign out and thus do not have a user, then I hit the home page. I should still be able to see the events. I shouldn't need to log in to see the list of events and so on. And then I cheekily asked it to, while you're at it, maybe you should split some of the code in app TSX into separate components of files, but to tidy things up a bit. So like I said, I noticed that this app TSX file is getting quite large and it's doing a lot of different stuff. So it might be better if it splits it up. That might be risking things. I might well be asking too much in one prompt, but let's see. Okay, so it's finished. It has done more than I asked for again, but it's supposedly broken things up for us. Let's first quickly take a look at that. So let's edit the app. Oh wow, yeah, that's a lot tidier now. It broke up into public app and authenticated app. Okay, and header. Okay, seems reasonable. Events. Why is it changed? Events. Not sure what it's changing now. That makes me a bit nervous. But it's changed. It's added this on the front, which I don't want, and I kind of just want the sign in button to be up at the top. So 1 second, I'm going to see if I can prompt to change that. Okay, so I just told it to please just remove this call out area here and move the sign in button up there. We don't need the call out explaining the admin features. So let's give that a crack. Okay, silly me. It's been too long doing this now and I forgot to press record on this section. So I'll just explain what we did here. It's now started the next major feature, the subscriptions idea. So I told it what I wanted to do. I wanted to create this extra section called subscriptions that logged in users are going to be able to access. And they're going to be able to create subscriptions, and the subscription is going to have a prompt. So I'm going to be interested in music events or fishing or something like that. And then each subscription is going to have a status, and you can delete it, for example. I didn't tell it to do that, delete it, but it did it for itself. And then it went off and just did it. And this is what we ended up with. So it did a really great job. I was quite descriptive with what I wanted, like specific fields that I wanted to have it in there. And I kind of gave it like a general idea of like what a subscription is going to allow users to do. But fortunately, it didn't. I was worried that it was going to actually do the implementation as well, but it didn't. For now, it's just done like the scaffolding for it. But it did do like this nice little thing here little explainer where when new events are discovered, we'll check if they match interest and notify you. You can have multiple subscriptions for different topics, enable, disable at any time. So it's thinking, it knows exactly what I want. So I'm very happy with that. So I think now the next step is to actually do the subscription part. 1 second, I'm going to prompt this up. Okie dokie. So I've said, okay, now before we actually do the subscriptions, what we're going to need to do is add embeddings to our events. For now, let's just add embeddings for the description, because I was thinking that we would need to add embeddings for the title as well, which we might need to, but for now, let's just leave it to just the description. Let's keep it simple. So let's update the event schema to add the description embedding field for and index for it. Then we're going to need to generate and set that embedding whenever an event description is changed. So please do that. I think that's a good first step before we actually do the subscription is to do that. Because what I'm thinking is that once we have the embedding, I want a way to kind of like test your interest here by kind of like showing some example events that would then show up, just a way that I can quickly and easily test whether the embedding is going to work. So that's what I'm thinking we're going to do here. So Convex has got embeddings built into the database. So Convex embeddings docs. So it should be able to do vector search is the word I'm thinking of. It's got vector search built into the database. Embeddings it's going to have to do by calling OpenAI. In fact, maybe I should mention that in the prompt. Let's use OpenAI to do the embeddings. So that's what I'm going to expect it to do. How it's going to do it is going to be interesting, because I know I've done embeddings and vector search before in the past, and you have to use actions to do it. So whether it's going to do that, it's going to kick off another separate action to do this, or it's going to do that as part of existing actions, I'm not sure. 1 second, let me try this. Tell it that we're going to use OpenAI for the embeddings, and then I'll kick it off. Okay, so we're back. So before I continue, I must remember that I didn't mention, but a couple of clips ago, I started using, rather than the custom token, I started using Chef again. I asked the team to give me some more tokens, and they gave me some more tokens. And I got 50 million tokens, which is very nice. Anyway. So let's continue on. So I asked it to do the embeddings for us, and it has updated a lot of different files. The main one, I guess did it do the schema correctly? Let's have a look. Description embedding, there we go. Great. Is an optional array of numbers, and it's added the vector index for us. Perfect. And it's added some functions to generate stuff. Yeah, that looks reasonable. So it's generating correctly some queries to get events. I'm not sure why it needs to do that. Okay, no worries. And then why does it change these events? Oh, of course, because it needs to update event with scraped data. And then, perfect. So it kicks off a scheduler to do the description updating. I was wondering whether it was going to do that or whether it was going to do it in line. Perfect. That's how I would have done it. I would have kicked off a scheduler to then do that as a separate process, which is awesome. And then in the seed events, we really should get rid of this, actually. Maybe I'll do that as the next prompt, just get rid of this seed events. We don't need this anymore. It's just confusing matters. And app admin page. So, embeddings. Oh, cool. So it's even added, let's have a look. Let's go back to the preview. The admin, it's added a button that's going to somewhere in here. There we go. Generate the missing embeddings for the existing events. Oh, this is cool. I was expecting to have to delete the events and recreate them, but let's see if this works. No. Fail to generate embeddings. Okay, what's the error here? Let's have a look. Logs. What's the error? Uncore error. Cannot read properties. Getting. Okay. Let's pass this and let's get this fixed. Okay, so I've said, okay, nice work. And then I've told it when I try to generate the missing embeddings, I get this error. Why is that? So hopefully it's able to fix that for us. So it seems to have worked out that the issue is the fact that it couldn't use the context.db inside of events. It's strange that TypeScript didn't pick up on that error, because TypeScript would normally throw a compile error on that. So it's interesting. Maybe it's because it's using any's somewhere. It's the AI trying to get around the TypeScript compiler and then causing more problems for itself. It's exactly the same analogy for people who prefer JavaScript over TypeScript. It's like you're gonna eventually run into these sort of issues and TypeScript will just save you. But anyway, rant over. But this is an interesting point I was going to mention, which is what would be nice is if Chef, a future version of Chef, could watch me just smoke test the app, watch what I do. Okay, I'm going to click this. Oh, and I should expect it to do something like that. Or like do this, and navigate around. And if I get an error, it should be able to do that itself and then check to see the results and whether it gets an error. And if it does, then it should fix it by itself. I shouldn't have to do this like feedback loop. It's just, I suspect this will just all become like standard in the future, like AI will just be able to do this. It'll be able to do the computer use as well by itself. But anyway, so let's see whether this is going to fix this for us. Okay, so supposedly it has fixed it. So let's try again. Admin, generate missing embeddings. Oh, it says generating this time. Cool. So let's have a quick look at the logs. No, errors all over the place. Okay, 01 invalid OpenAI token. Okay. 1 second while I debug this. Okay, so I worked it out in the end. So the issue was that in the embeddings TS file here, it wasn't like this. It was like this. So this obviously baked into Chef, it must have, you know, expectation of how to set up the OpenAI SDK, and it had it set up like this, which would work if I hadn't already messed with the OpenAI token in this project. So by default, Chef gives you this convex underscore OpenAI API key, and it gives you some free tokens to use, but we ran out of those a long time ago. So inside of put that back in there. So inside of scraping TS here, we removed the base URL and we just used our own API key here. So that was what was needed inside of embeddings here. So once I did that, I was able to press the generate missing embeddings button again, and the embeddings populated into the events table. So now we have our array of embeddings. So that's nice. So I think before we continue on with our subscriptions stuff, what I want to do is to just tidy up some code a little bit, because I noticed that the events.ts file here is getting really quite large. It's like 520 lines, which is quite a lot. And the fact that, unlike Cursor, for example, it doesn't, whenever it ever needs to make a change to events or something to this file, it's got to rewrite the entire file, which uses a lot of tokens and takes a long time. So if I break it up into smaller files, it doesn't need to alter quite as much. The way that Cursor or Windsurf or something does that, they do like delta changes, like partial changes. You may have noticed that in Cursor. It'll say like, you know, use the existing imports ... and now add this chunk in here, and I'd use the rest of the file from here below. Chef doesn't do that currently. Hopefully it will happen at some point, but it doesn't do that currently. So it has to rewrite the entire file every time. So I'm going to do that. I also want it to remove the seeding stuff that we talked about before. We don't need the seeding stuff anymore, so get rid of the event seeding stuff. But 1 second while I do that. Okay, so I told it to do the code tidying up that we just talked about. And so it's gone ahead and done that for us. It split the events out into events internal, events admin, and it's updated. It took quite a few iterations, but it did update. But then it got stuck, I think, or stopped. So I told it to continue, and then it did this weird pushing functions to Convex quite a few times until I manually stopped it. I think this is a bug in Chef. Probably we'll have to raise this one with the team. But anyway, I've stopped it, and I think it's all completely finished now. So I think now it's time to test the embeddings. So what I want to happen here is now on this create subscription, when you type something in, I want to come up with like a list of events on here somewhere, just to show like example of what events would be triggered by this. So 1 second while I prompt this out. Okay, so what I said is, okay, now I want to make it so that the create subscription page shows a sample of events that would match the prompt that the user types into the box, so into here. So to do that, we'll need a query that is going to do the embedding search and return a selection, say 5 events, and display them as small cards below the prompt box on the create subscription page. We should we should show the user that this is a sample of the kind of event that matches their interests. I would also like the search to do a text search against the title and to dedupe the results before returning to the display. We should debounce the search as the user types into the text box too. Okay, let's see how this does. Okay, so it's finished. Supposedly it's finished the debounce search, the event preview, the visual feedback, the event cards. Okay, so moment of truth. Let's have a look. Create subscription. Let's say, hang on, what events have we got? Just so we know what I'm testing against here. So I know Slumberjack is a music festival or music band. So let's say music. Oh, live music at Origins Market. So it's done that, but it's not done Slumberjack. So maybe the embeddings doesn't have. Let's try Slumber. So it's done Slumberjack, but it's not done the embedding. Let me think. Okay, so inside of here, it's got something like Morgan Fletcher, 3 gold records. So music would come up because you would think gold records would be in there. Alice in Wonderland. So these are like music. So let's think. Let's put the word poison in there. Is it going to just is it going to do even the word poison? Let's have a look. Create subscription for the word poison. No. Huh. Interesting. So it doesn't seem to be doing the subscription check. Sorry, it doesn't seem to be doing the embedding check. Let me just investigate this. Be right back. That didn't take me long. So in the create subscription page, it's got this preview matching events query here. And if we have a look what that actually does, preview matching events query, it's only going to search the title. It's not done the embedding search at all. So give me a second. I need to tell it to do the embedding search. Okay, so I told it. So that's good. It's searching the titles as expected, but it isn't doing the embedding search on the description like it should be. Did you forget that part? Let's find out whether it's able to fix that for us. Yes, it says that it did forget the embedding search part. Oh man, how? That's just interesting that the AI is able to forget to do something. I mean, it's like me. I forget to do things all the time. I would expect the AI to remember that. Okay. Hopefully it's able to fix this for us. Okay, so it's supposedly done it now. I can kind of understand why it forgot. I bet you it just didn't want to do it. But it's because to do the query, it needs to use an action, not a query. Because to do the embedding comparison, it first has to take the user's prompt and then... Oh dear, what's happened here? There we go. First has to take the user's prompt here, convert that into an embedding, then compare that, do a vector search against the database. So it had to have changed it from query to an action, which probably is what confused it. So in theory now, this should work. So if I type in music, hey, there we go. So Harbar, so I guess is music, Utopia under synesthesia, and Slumberjack. Fantastic. So let's try dance music. Okay, so I'm not sure why. Oh, live music. There we go. So, but just like EDM. Is that going to work? Still maybe like overcompensating. So maybe it's coming up with too many. Let me just see. Like, let's pick one that's like a very specific. So these are like bars and degustations. A carnival parade. Let's try. There's something specific in this one. Let's try. What's something in here? Like, should we try rain? Let's just try the word rain. Let's have a look. Create description. Rain. It's coming up with too many. Maybe what we need to do is get it to exclude. We need to have it somehow exclude certain, because like these shouldn't come up, like rain, parade. And we kind of like wanted to sort it by relevance as well. So yeah, I think it's just returning too much because it's not excluding if they're not that relevant. So 1 second, I'm going to see if I can prompt it to reduce this list of events that come back. Okay, so I told it, where is it here? That's great, except now it's returning too many events. It should only really return events that are very likely to match the user's interests is the way to do that. And it agreed with me. Of course it did, because it's sycophantic AI. And it went through and has made some changes. Now, I was just looking at what it's done at the code. And to be perfectly honest, I don't actually fully understand what it's doing here, because there's a lot of stuff in here. Like it's doing like this, it's doing cosine similarity, which is a thing that you do for like comparing embeddings together. I'm not sure why it's doing this in Convex level, because the data should just do this in database. And then it has this extract keywords thing here. So, and then it's got a bunch of keywords. I don't fully understand why it's doing this. I could spend some time and work it out, or we could just see whether it worked, because it's pure vibe here. Let's try parade again. No. Okay, let's try music. No. Oh dear. Okay. Festival. No. Bar. No. Okay. I think I need to go back to the drawing board on this one and perhaps ask it to think of a different solution to this. Back in a minute. Okay, so I have told it that, where is it? Up here. Okay, then I've told it that no events show up, and I was looking at the docs on vector search, and we get a score. Let me just quickly show you what I mean here. On Convex docs, we get a score. So when we do a search, we get, I thought we did, so I don't know why it didn't do this. It returns back an array of two fields, the ID and the score. So we should just be able to use the score. So I don't know why it was coming up with all that other crazy stuff. So I told it to undo what it did, and for now just return back the values plus also return back the score, so we can see what the score is. Because I'm interested to see like how relevant some of these vectors are that it returns back. So let's try that again. Let's try music. Hey, okay, so all right, so these are actually really quite low score. So Slumberjack, very low, 0.2, 0.24. You'd think this would be a lot higher. So let's say, let's try yoga, because I just saw that there, yoga. Yoga studio, but that's still only at 0.318. I mean, what do you have to do to get that higher? Maybe the conclusion is that embedding is just not going to be enough. Maybe I'm going to have to ask an AI to say whether this would match a user's requirements. Let me think about this one. You know what? I think that the AI would be a better solution, but for now, what I'm going to do, I think, is just going to set it to be like a fairly low value. I'm going to say like anything over 0.2 will be a pass. maybe I could make it configurable. Maybe I could allow the user to set the value, or am I asking too much of users here? Now, I think I'm just going to set it to 0.2. And then, because this video is probably going to be very, very long, and maybe we can revisit it in the future if we want to. But I'm going to set that to 0.2 for now. 1 second. Okay, so I've just said, let's just create a magic constant that is hard-coded to be 0.2. So anything below 0.2 is excluded, anything above 0.2 is included. So I picked that number because I just put in a couple of words like parade, and I saw that, 0.35 is the kind of a parade. And I think music is just probably a very common one. So that's why so many results are above 0.2 here. So I think that's why. Let's try art. So there's quite a few above art, but I mean, like autumn beats probably shouldn't be included art unless you include music as art. Live music at origins probably shouldn't be unless it's included in the description somewhere. So I'm just going to say 0.2 for now, and I'd rather include too many events. I'd rather have false positives than false negatives. Is it the way around? I'd rather include more events in the search results to come back rather than miss an event because of this. So let's just go with 0.2 for now and do that. Okay, just quickly, one minor thing that I decided to do here is add this little threshold detector. So it's doing the threshold and showing which ones are below, just for a little bit of debuggy purposes. So that's so I can see when I'm doing it, like, visually, which ones are going to trigger and which ones are not. So parade is going to trigger one, but not the rest of these because the score is too low. Okay, so I think the time has come to do the final part, which should be easy for the AI at this point, which is to actually send me an email when a new event or events is discovered. So I think I'll want to do this in a batch. I don't want to get like 20 emails when it does, like, more events get pushed up. Maybe I want to batch it up so it just does it like once a day. So let me just have a think about how I want to prompt this out, and I'll be back in a second. Okay, so what I've said is now the final part, the emailing part, we want to use resend to send emails, but I realized, there's a complication here. But what we want to do is batch up the events before we send them out so that we only send out on a particular cadence, say max once every 24 hours for each subscription. So to do that, we will need a way to queue up events to be sent per subscription. Let's just do that part first before we do the actual emailing part. So, and then let's show on the event subscription list page the events that are queued to be sent and when the next email is scheduled out per subscription. So what I'm thinking is I wanted to show a list of the events that are due to go out for that subscription and when they're going to go out, and maybe we'll add a debug button to send it out now or something. So fingers crossed this works. We're very almost there. I can't believe we managed to get this far. So let's see if this final bit works. Okay, so it's finished. I had a quick look at what it's done, and I'm not sure we're on the right track here. But it's come back and it's changed the schema to add this email queue table here, which is not. It's not wrong. It's not exactly what I was expecting, but okay. And an email queue is related to a subscription and an event. So we'll have a row in this event email queue for each event that matches it, and if it got sent out and what time it got sent at. Okay. Now I also then noticed it update the crons here. So it's added this process subscription matching cron, which is not what I want. So the issue here is what it's doing is every 4 hours, it's going to do this process subscription matching. So, and then what that function does is here, it's going to grab every single subscription in the app and then loop through each subscription and then run this find matching events for subscription internal function from the subscriptions file here. And then what that's going to do is it's going to run it's going to go through every single, it's going to do a search for every single event that matches this particular subscription. That's not going to be good, is it? Because like every 4 hours, it's going to basically find the same ones. And it's also like a lot of work to be doing to go through every single event. What I want it to do is just only do the subscription check when a new event is added. So when a new event is added, I want to fire off a process that's going to check every subscription to see whether it matches. And if it does, then create one. So I think that's what I'm going to tell it. I'm going to tell it to do not do the cron way of doing it, and instead do this scheduled function, this background process, whenever an event is added or updated. And so that's important to realize as well, is that because events are added and then the information is filled in at a later date, like hours later, like on a delay, we need to make sure that we're not doing the check to see whether it matches the subscription too many times. Otherwise, it's kind of inefficient. Or at least, the very least, make sure that we don't send the email out twice if it changes. So 1 second, I'm going to reprompt it, but we're getting there. We're close. I feel like we're close. Oh, but I should show you the UI that it did for it, which is quite nice. So the event subscription is exactly what I want. So it has these email queue, no events queued for email for that subscription, which is nice. It's exactly what I want, really. I wanted to get a list of them there. So, but I'm going to try and prompt it out of this cron job idea that it's doing. And then we'll also need a way to be able to test this. I want to be able to have a way that I can add things to the queue, or maybe from the admin area somehow test this. But let me just do one thing at a time first. Let's do this bit. Back in a second. Okay, so I asked it to do that changing from cron job to be updated whenever an event is added or updated, and it did that. I did have to rewind once, I think, or maybe twice. It's definitely starting to reach the point where it has to edit too many files, and it's just taking a very long time to do it because the type check fails quite a lot of times. In this case, it did do it. I had to cut down the prompt a little bit, cut a bit out. And then I went back and told it to break up the subscription TS file, because it was like 600 lines, so it's getting really long, and it's got a lot of usage of any in there, which scares me to no end. But anyway, so after it broke it up, I came back and I asked it to finish off the bit, getting to add some more debug information to the event debug page, so we could do the subscription matching and we can trigger it. So it's now done that. So unfortunately, I have run out of time for today, so I'm going to have to pick this up again tomorrow. I did kind of want to get this finished today, but I feel like we're just so close. We're almost there. I think we've just got a few last things to do where this subscription matching, I'm going to test this out. In fact, I'll test this out in a minute. But then once we've done that, we just literally just need to do the email part, and we're done. So hopefully we can finish this off tomorrow morning. I can edit it and get this video done by the end of the day. But I think it's going to be such a long video. This is going to be like 4 or 5 hours video. And if you're still watching this point, well, good on you. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to do another video that breaks down some of the key learnings from this just into a smaller digestible chunk. But because there was a lot of learnings throughout this video. But for now, let's just check to see whether this subscription matching thing is going to work. So let's go back to my subscription. So as a user, what have I got? I've got a subscription for fishing, dance music. So there should definitely be stuff for dance music. So if I trigger the Slumberjack one, which I know matches dance music, if I go into debug and we trigger subscription matching triggers successfully. So let's have a look. Is there anything going to come in the logs from that? Subscription matching for an event. What's this? Processing for subscription matching. Okay, so has that done it? So there should have been something come in for the dance music, which there has not. Is that because of something else? I think I'm going to just debug this, but I think I'm going to leave this debugging for tomorrow because I just run out of time for today. All right, well, I'll pick this up again tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Okay, we're back. It's day 3 of doing this now. And I feel like we're very almost there. We've just got a few last little bits and pieces to do. But one thing I did notice is when I came back to it this morning, I tested out the event subscription sending. Where is it? This bit here, the subscription matching. I trigger now, and it still doesn't work. And I went through the code and had a little look about what was up, and I noticed, I looked in the database, this is active field is unset. And that's an issue because that is used when it runs the action. It gets the subscriptions that are active, but because that's unset, it's classed as not set. So then I looked in the schema and I noticed that there's a bunch of optional values in here that don't need to be optional, but these should be like not optional. So I think, oh, here we go. So it did it because of migration. So I'm going to tell it to remove those optionals, and I'm just going to delete those values from the database and fix that, and hopefully it will work. Be back in a minute. Okay, so I spent too much time here fighting with Chef. So let me explain the issue. I told it about the is active subscription, and I told it to remove the optional from those fields. And this is the second time I did it, because the first time I didn't tell it I didn't need migrations, and I went ahead and tried to do a whole bunch of migration stuff, and then got stuck in like some loops and other issues, and it was changing stuff that it shouldn't be changing. So I stopped that, rewound, tried it again without migrations, and it did the changes, but it then had a type error for some reason and decided that it was going to change some other stuff, and it got more type errors, and it got changed more stuff, and it just went on and on and on like this until it eventually finally pushed it. But the reason why it was able to push is because it said here, vector search, temporarily disabled vector search in search events by embedding, which is a problem because that breaks a whole chunk of the app. So then I told it, please re-enable the vector search, and it goes, oh yeah, I can do that, I'll do that. And it pushed it. But what it had done, it re-implemented the whole, like, basically vector search algorithm and everything, cosine similarity inside of the code itself, which is not what I wanted. We want to use the vector search ability of Convex. So I told it, no, don't re-implement the cosine matching. We should be using the Convex vector search. And it goes, yeah, you're right. I apologize for doing it. So it did that. And then it started saying, oh, there's an issue with it. And it was going to, let me just check. And then I'm going to undo, where is it? I'm going to undo the vector search stuff. So I'm like, just forget it. Stop. What I'm going to do, I think, is I'm just going to roll back to before I taught to do these things. And I'm going to manually find the place where that is active, is where that subscription is created. And I'm just going to set that is active to true. So I'm just going to default it to true. And I'm just going to manually alter the code. I don't know what it's doing, but we need to move on. So 1 second, please. Okay, we're back. So I just did like a very simple one change. I just removed the optional around that is active and press save, and it built and pushed and it was done. So I'm just going to leave it there. And then I went ahead and picked, I created a new subscription called with the interest of music. And I went to an event that I know is a music event, the Slumberjack one. And I ran the test on that and it added it to the queue. So that's awesome. You know what? I'm just going to try one that's not music. Actually, no. Do you know what? So this one is wine. So let's create another subscription. Let's call it wine. And what are we going to come up here? So there's going to be 10 events that come up and one that's not. So like the carnival parade is not, but for some reason, all these other ones, it's flagging as wine. But okay, let's just go with that. And now if I trigger the carnival parade, where is it? Carnival parade 1, we'll trigger this. This should not turn up in that subscription. So let's go to the subscription. It has not, but it has turned up in the music one, which makes sense because I guess carnivals are going to involve music. So Fantastic. So now I think what I want to do, supposing that, well, I think we're really just teetering on the edge of this chef being able to do this at this point. But what I want to do now is have a button on here that sends this email basically, and then clears the queue. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to prompt that out. And to do that, we're going to use resend. So I did tell it a long time ago that we're going to use resend, but we are actually going to do it now. So I'll be back in a minute. Oh, okay. All right. So I asked it to add that button to send the email immediately and send a nicely formatted email containing the queued items. And it went off and what I thought was going to do it, but then install the resend package, but then it just started to run into issues and started changing a lot of other code. Why? I don't know. And then it ran out of time, apparently. So I told it to continue. And then it did a recap of what it's up to and then declared that it was done. Why is it changed the look of everything? What? Like, why? What's going on here? Should we even try to see whether this is going to work? Let's have a look. So, okay, let's see if this sends. I don't know whether that's going to work. Is that going to send to my email address? I don't know. I'm not happy with the fact that it's changed everything, but at this point, as long as it's going to look okay, then as long as it's going to work, then I don't mind. If it looks a bit weird, a bit different from before, I mean, sure. I mean, it's just a different look, I suppose. I did prefer it before, but I don't care as long as it works. Come on. So let me go back to the subscriptions and let me see whether I can debug whether maybe it's just a missing API token or something. Back in a minute. Okay, so I asked it to stick some more logging in there to see if I can debug what was going on, and it did, and I ran it again and we have an error, and the error is user not found or no email address, which makes sense, right? Because I'm logged in using an anonymous user, so I haven't got an email address. I didn't set an email address, so this may not be Chef's fault here. This may well be Mike user error. Oh dear. Cannot have two HTML5 backends at the same time. Oh dear. Is that? Maybe we need to refresh. Be right back. Okay, we're back. I don't know what that was. I will have to get the team to look at that one. But, okay, so I should be the top user here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chuck in an email address straight in the database here. Email. Okay, so Mike at convex.dev. Right. So now I have an email address. Okay, so it's put the email address up there. Okay, so let's try that again. Let's go to my subscriptions and send email now. Did that send? Logs? No. Failed to send via resend. The Convex resend API proxy only supports sending email to your own verified email address, which is that. Okay, all right, I will do that. I might have to hide my personal email address here. Although my personal email address is all over my blog, so maybe I won't bother hiding it. Okay, all right, so let me change that from that to this, just so we can test this. Okay, come on, please work. Sending, sent, events have gone. Oh, am I going to get an email? Okay, check this out. This is the email that I got. So new events found. We found 2 new events. And this is it. Wow. That's not true, but don't worry about it. So it's now showing, I don't know why we're getting this match 100% from match 23. Oh, maybe it's, no, I don't, oh, it's title? Oh, I don't know. I don't know where that match has come from, but we got an email. Huzzah. I think there's undoubtedly a billion bugs in the code here, but I'm going to have to spend some evenings or weekends to sift through that and try and fix it. But the point has been proven. I can build an entire full app on Chef. I'm happy, very happy. Okay, so I just watched the entire thing through just to make sure there weren't any really big mess ups. I cut out a few different bits and pieces as well to just try and tighten it up a bit, but it's still over 2.5 hours long. So, I mean, if you got to this point and you're still watching, give yourself a big thumbs up because well done. But I do hope that you learned some stuff through this. I mean, I certainly did. I took like a whole heap of notes from this. Some of them are like issues that I'm going to raise with the team and hopefully going to get them fixed so we can improve Chef. And other ones are learnings that I'm going to condense down and turn into a video that's a little bit shorter maybe. So stay tuned. Don't forget to like and subscribe because that's going to be hitting the channel soon. So until next time, thanks for watching. Cheerio.